What's going on, fishy friends, and welcome to another edition of the Regional Fishing Reports brought to you by the Fishing Channel. Tonight, we have the Middle Chesapeake Bay Report brought to you by Captain Walleye Pete, who I will bring in right now. Pete, what's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm good, man. Just got off the water today. I've been fishing a lot, and all is well.
You know, something that I always admire about you and I'm sure this is an easy answer for you, but whenever Lady C and I get off the water, like within 10 minutes, we're like knocked out, asleep. We pass out, and like you get home from being on the water, and here you are with us. So
yeah, I got a nice shower, and I got my nice BKD fancy shirt on, man. It's pretty.
Man, they sponsor us. I don't have any fancy BKD shirt on.
Well, I've known them for about 100 years.
Yeah. I guess you win on that one. Well, for those of you, for those that are watching tonight that don't know who you are, maybe they've been in a coma for the last 25 years. But if you fish this region, you probably already know who Pete is. But this is, these fishing reports are going from Baltimore all the way to the south of Florida. So there may be some people who don't know you. Tell us about who Walleye Pete is.
Oh, well, grew up in upstate New York, walleye fishing, hence the nickname Walleye Pete. But I gave myself that name for a handle on the radio when I moved to Chesapeake Bay. My name was not Walleye Pete while fishing for walleyes. I just came down here, gave myself that name on the radio, and then social media kind of kicked in. I called myself Walleye Pete, and it's just kind of stuck. But grew up in upstate New York, fishing for trout and walleyes and reeding streams and jigging and fishing a whole lot with my dad and my grandma, and loving life. Now I'm doing what I love, and I've been doing it since full time since 2004. It's crazy.
2004. Styling and profiling.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to book a trip, it's Four Seasons Fishing Charters, right?
It's Four Seasons guide service. You can Google Walleye Pete. My website's walleyePete.com, but I had a problem with it. I fixed the problem, but all my contact information's on there. I just haven't posted much on that. But on Facebook and Instagram at Walleye Pete, and on Facebook at Four Seasons Guide Service. You can find me there and give me a call or a text, and I can book trips there. I'm booked a lot short notice. I'm very busy, but September, August, September, October, I've got availability. November, December also, but up until late July, I'm pretty daggone well booked.
Well, guys, I fished with Pete probably 3 or 4 times on his boat, and it's never been disappointment. He says he has rough days. I've yet to see him. At least in my book, they haven't been rough days. So if you book a trip now, we'll have a fishing report with Pete in August. So book it now, and then in August, you'll know what to expect. But speaking of what to expect, Pete, what's going on out there?
What's going on? Well, I'm fishing out of Solomon's. I know that up the bay, the biomass of bigger stripers are up the bay. The charter boats are doing whatever they're doing with them. Light tackle guys up there are doing well. I know that. I think they're catching them shallow. That's up the bay. In the mid-bay where I'm at, the charter boats have left that region. Some are fishing up the Patuxent River. So the Patuxent River, well up the river, there are some stripers up there. I'm not going up there. I don't compete with the charter boats. Personally, I've been going east and north and south. So northeast, southeast, I've been fishing shallow from the Chop Tank south to Smith Island. I have covered, unfortunately, over 100 miles in a day about 3 or 4 different times in the last 2 weeks. Never in love with that, being the gas is like it is. But I vowed to myself that until I can't pay for gas, I'm just going to keep fishing like I do. And so far, I can still pay for gas. So I've been fishing skinny water, say 3 to 7 feet of water. I've been using paddle tails, cranks, and surface. And every single day early, I've been launching sometimes at 4:30 a.m. to get to places by daylight to really catch nice fish on the top. In the last 2 weeks, it was about a week and a half ago, I had 2 days over there where I had 17 citation specs. That was odd, though. It hasn't been that good. I've had to cover lots of ground, a lot of ground, 90, 80, 90, 100 miles of ground to catch a very few specks. Maybe maybe I'm not that good at it, but I'm trying it. But I have been catching some specks on the regular, just not big numbers. But I had a 32 incher last week.
Yeah, we saw that.
It
That
looked
was
like a whole salmon. I'm like, how does salmon show up in here?
yeah.
That fish hit a paddle tail in the middle of the day on hard structure, and hard structure is rocks or wrecks to me. That's hard structure.
Mm-hmm.
Stumps are hard also, but hard structure, old riprap, and wrecks. And I got that 32 incher off some old riprap um, in the middle of the day. It's sunny out, beautiful, and that rock pile was holding some fish, and it had some skates on it, some cow nose rays on it too. And the guy hooked it. He hooked that fish, and one of the guys on the boat said, "Oh, it's a ray. I just saw one over there." And the fish was screaming drag, maybe like a ray. But then I saw a little bit of a turn and some head shake, and it didn't look like wing shake. It looked like head shake. So I said, "Well, we're not going to bust this thing off until we verify." Long story short, we got it near the boat. We saw the tail, and it looked like a striper. It looked like about a 30-inch striper or so.
Right.
But it turned out to have spots on it. It was amazing.
Ooh. What's gosh, I've always noticed that there's a transition with big trout when they go from really not that hard of a fighting fish to a really hard fighting fish, and I've never really noticed what size that is. What have you noticed?
When a speck gets, at 20 inches they put a nice little pull on,
Yeah.
but at 24 plus they really put a pretty good pull on, and then you're in danger of the hook ripping because they got those soft mouths. So those big trout are tough to land. You put too much pressure on them with too much drag, and you can pull the hook pretty easy. And they also have that fang. They got that fang, and my God, if the jig is in their mouth a little far and the line, the monofilament 20 liter or 25 liter or less is dangerous with those big specks. When it's in their mouth and they shake that, you know how they shake that head. They shake that head. If that fang hits that line, it's all over but the crying. And I did lose some awful big specks recently to that fang. And we also got some awful big specks on that hard structure on surface plugs. When they hit a surface plug, it is a fast explosion. They're faster than a striper. So when they hit it, it's an explosion. And I was using storm chug bugs. Storm chug bugs aren't big. They're not little. They've got decent hooks. They catch stripers. They catch specks. I really like the chug bugs. And, I like a lot of lures. If they make a good pop and a good rattle, and they all will work. But, man, the chug bugs have been working good for me. That's for sure. On the top.
So what are the other trends that you're looking at? I mean, is there something, is there a particular tide you're looking for, or water quality, anything like that?
Oh yeah, oh sure. I live and die on that water, on water quality. Like today, for instance, today it was blowing south 15 to 20, and it was puffing more than that at times. I had to find clean water, and some of the good water that I had yesterday, where I had 10 specks yesterday on one spot. And I don't like it when I catch that many in one spot, none in any other places. I'd like to be everywhere.
Right.
But anyway, that particular spot was all mudded out today. So I didn't even try to fish it. I don't fish when it's muddy. So I had to run up inside further where I was at. I had to find clean water, and I found some clean water today, and we really did well on hard structure in shallow, but it was clean water. And it was the whole difference. It was emerald green. It was just barely protected. If the wind direction would have changed to the west another 5 degrees to the west, that area would have been blown out. It was just out of the wind enough to catch fish, and it happened to be some fish in it. When the wind blows, my places are limited. When there's no wind, the menu's wide open. But on these windy days, the menu's not wide open, and I got to go locate. And I just got lucky today. It's like the second place I went to with clean water was lit with stripers up to about 28 inches. So
28. Wow. That's actually
I was really surprised. I've been getting a lot of 18 to 22 inch fish with the occasional 25. And I've also been hooking specks here and there too. So whenever I'm catching stripers, specks can happen too. And it's on the same baits. X-Rap 10s, BKDs, paddle tails, 4-inch paddle tails. As long as it's got a good paddle, it doesn't matter. And white's been a good color. I like white a lot. I like white a lot, so that's been working for me. But that can change day to day.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
interesting about what you say about the 28th, because the biomass is north of the bridge right now.
yeah.
Although I've heard some not so great things about north of the bridge the last few days as well. But I'm also not hearing fish quite as big as 28. And I mean, when I fished that Kent Island tournament up there, and our boat at least didn't get anything 28. I think 27 was the largest one. So those are pretty good sized fish.
What I see going on in my shallow water that I've been fishing, from the chop tank down to Smith, when I've got good structure and I've got good current with some emerald green water, if the sun's not shining or if it's early or late, there's typically a couple good fish on that structure. Where in late April, when I was spec fishing, we were definitely getting lots of nice fish in those same spots, but there was many more fish. They were gathered up when the water's say 55 to 65. It is lit up shallow with lots of numbers and some nice fish mixed in. What trends as the water gets warmer is I have less fish, don't catch as many stripers, but there's specks around hopefully, and it just gets a little more lean with fish, so I have to work harder. I'm not in love with working hard. I like easy, but it's still pretty doggone good, and I don't have to play bumper boats up north. I I would rather hold a change can at an intersection than go up there. So I'm just glad I can still pick away at fish down here, catch some good ones in the mix, and specs. That 2 day period I had 40 specs, 17 citations, and we
Yeah.
big fish. So
you were killing me when I was sitting at home working and watching that, man. That was driving me nuts.
you work? I didn't know that.
Well, not that hard. Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, we do have some questions coming. I just want to let you know we're doing this a little bit different. We'll do the report first and then hit the questions at the end. Captain, in terms of technique, if somebody, I know you're catching, stripers and trout, and you actually got a Spanish in there mixed in surprisingly. And that was May.
That was a wild unicorn. It was not far from Bishop's Head. It was in 4 feet of water, and I had just caught 2 or 3 stripers off some stumps. And we got a nice fish on, and I saw color, and I'm like, yeah, we got a speck. And it was a little skinnier, and it had teeth. I was like, what is a mackerel doing here? So it was on a BKD, I believe, in about 4 feet of water, and it was a mackerel. I couldn't believe it. We didn't catch any other ones. So that was kind of crazy. That was just odd.
So when I've been on your boat, you talked to me a little bit about different techniques, whether you're in shallow water for stripers or trout.
Okay.
There's kind of a little bit of a different approach. What is your approach for the two different fish?
Well, specs aren't always crazy active. When you get stripers on some stumps or on a rock pile, you can throw a plastic out there and rip it fast, and they will come attack it. Where a speck, you got to slow it down a little bit. Stripers, you can do about anything with it, and they'll hit it. If they're there, they're going to eat it. They're there to eat. They're not there to rest. They're going to eat. So when they're there, they're going to eat it. The specs, you just got to slow down. It's erratic slow. Once in a while, we had a speck today hit at the boat, and we lost it. It fanged it. It was about a 24-incher that busted us at the boat with his fang. But anyway, that fish hit right at the boat. It chased the lure to the boat. So when they're active, it's just like stripers. But most of the time, I don't think they are. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, there's guys down in Virginia that have fished for specks as long as I've been alive, and they might have something different to say. But what I've witnessed up here is most of the time it's a slower, taking it easy, but still good twitch, though. You always want to have that good, sharp little twitch, but not forward speed so much. So you want to ease back a little bit with the speed, but keep the twitch.
And do you normally do sort of a vertical twitch, or is it a side to side?
I like it down low, man. I like the rod tip down low. Now with a BKD or with a paddle, I like it down low. Maybe with a BKD up, but still to the side also. We're fishing shallow water, and I just I don't like any wind bowing my line. So if it's up in the air, the wind can bow your line. If it's not windy, then have at it. Do it any way you want. But I personally prefer the rod tip down low.
Okay, so we ought to see the water warming up over the next couple of weeks. What kind of things do you expect once the water continues to warm?
Well, I never really know. If I told you I knew, I'd be lying. But as it gets hotter, the striper fishing could be more difficult. Early can still be good. Last year I had 86 degrees and I was catching incredibly nice stripers on structure
I
at
was with you.
you know
Yeah.
rainy days.
Mm-hmm.
But speckled sea trout got more active. The hotter it gets, the more active they seem to get.
Mm-hmm.
Keyword seem to get. I hope they get more active, or I hope they show up in numbers. Because right now, migratory fish, the nature of that beast is you never know how many are going to show up. So what I'm seeing so far this year, they ain't showing up too well. So I have to cover lots of ground and work really hard in my water. Maybe somebody's doing better to the south. Maybe somebody's doing better in my water that I'm fishing. But what I'm seeing is it's difficult at best for specks, but it's still all right. The striper
Yeah.
fish, there's fish there. You just got to cover ground. And trips have been going really well. I can't complain.
Great. Well, I think we got at least one question coming in before we let you go, Captain.
All right.
Matt Hartman asked, you finding any specks on the chop tank?
I have not caught a speck at the chop tank yet. I haven't been fishing up there much. I think I was there yesterday and I did catch some stripers. We did not see a speck. The northernmost speck I've gotten is the little chop tank, I think. And then I've caught some good specks down at Smith Island, and I've had them at Bloodsworth and Holland, South Marsh. I've had a lot of specks in a lot of different places. Not a lot of specks in a lot of places. Specks in a lot of different places. I've had about 60 specks so far, and that kind of sucks.
That's not good. Okay. For the year, that's not as good as.
Well, you know what? I take that back. I had 40 in 2 days, and then I've had six. No, I've had more than six. I've probably been going on 100. But if it was good, I catch 10 to 30 a day. When the fishing was good, you'd catch that many and even more. But that is not happening this year. Although I did get 10, not yesterday, 2 days ago. You know what? I got at least 100 so far. I wasn't thinking. But anyway, but it's not.
But you're saying it's not the best year for specks.
No, it's tough. But it could change.
I got a couple questions rolling in. One from Blue Keys, new name. I don't recognize his name, so welcome if you haven't watched before. How far north have you fished this year, Pete?
Tillman Island, Tillman. Okay. So I was up to Tillman a couple different times in the last couple weeks. With the right conditions. Again, I chase conditions, so I was probably chasing an outgoing tide. And I probably had an easterly wind, and I probably wanted to fish, the southern end of Tillman on the outgoing tide. So as I'm south and the tide is going away, I can haul butt up to Tillman and still have good current. So I think that's what I was doing that day. It was chasing current, and I had good water up there too. So, and I caught. I did well up that way. But I didn't catch any specks.
Yeah, Pete works really hard, burns a lot of gas.
I'm not very smart. I am not a smart man.
To find these spots, and we've already discussed before setting up these fishing reports that we're not going to specifically talk spots. So if he's a little vague,
today's riprap was so far offshore in an area that you would never guess there's riprap in. And when I slid near it and side imaged it with my Humminbird side imaging, it just lit up with fish, and I was so happy because it was a tough day. It was tough. The power plant. I went to the power plant first thing this morning. I'll say it. I'll burn that. Sometimes it's good early, and sometimes it's not. If you ran 25 miles to get there, you can get your feelings hurt real bad. My feelings got hurt. We caught some small fish, but nothing good. So I hightailed it out of there pretty quick and went east, and tried to find clean water, and I did. But some riprap is in places you would never think it would be in, and you just think about it. In the 1960s, it was on land, and maybe on Google Earth, if you really evaluate Google Earth, you can find these riprap walls and things offshores. Those things are fish magnets. They don't always work, but they work quite often. And I've got 50 of those things up and down the coast here that I can go to and try to chase fish on.
Yeah, well, he just gave you guys a big pointer. I've noticed the same thing. It's that submerged riprap off the shore. We got a question from Big Yacker Fishing. Anything out of Chesapeake Beach?
I have no idea. I mean, if you go out of Chesapeake Beach straight across, you're in the chop tank. So I have been over there, but as far as the Chesapeake Beach side, I haven't fished on the west side up that far at all. I haven't in the summer when things start to get, when the fish start breaking, then, on that side of the world, you'll get some birds working and things, but I have not been fishing that area at all.
And we before we close, I mean, the woman who supports it all made a comment, so she's definitely getting in here. Pete eats, sleeps, fishes. Works hard. From the fishing widow.
Oh boy, is that my wife or girlfriend?
That's your. Wow, that I guess both.
No, yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah, she is quite the widow. She puts up with me. It's amazing. We've been together. We've been married 7 years, and I have fished over 200 days a year each. And I fish every weekend, holidays, Thanksgiving, New Year's Day. I fished, but she supports everything I do. It's amazing. I could not even come close to doing what I do without her. It's unbelievable what a partner, partner in life, great wife can do. It's awesome.
I've only met her a few times, but she is definitely a lovely person. We have one more question before we do have to close out. And guys, I encourage you to tune into the next fishing report. We're doing inshore coastal Georgia fishing in a few minutes. But Russell Kovach says, I know you don't want to talk spots specifically, but any recommendations on places to launch a paddle kayak on the western shore for which we'd have a decent shot at specks or maybe even reds? I may be able to chime in on that one.
Well, Point Lookout.
Bingo.
Possibly, but that's a pretty big paddle out to the mouth.
Yeah.
Well, you go. What do you got?
What is it? Piney Point is not a bad spot for specks.
There you go. Yeah. That's a beautiful area too, and I don't think you have to go too far to have good water. But
it's a little bit of a paddle from Point Lookout. Yeah. But is there a launch closer to Point Lookout than is there a launch closer to Piney Point than Point Lookout?
Oh yeah, up there at Piney Point.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I do Piney Point, Russell. That'd be my recommendation.
Yeah, nice protected water up in there too.
Mm-hmm. See, Pete doesn't think like a kayaker. He throws 2 casts and he's gone.
Yeah, I'm jealous of kayakers because they dissect water like nobody else does because they don't have an engine and they're smart. They don't have to burn fuel, but they dissect areas and they really learn those zones they fish. So whenever I see a kayaker, I go the other way quickly because I am never going to get in their way. I respect the heck out of what they do.
Man, you're the man as always, Pete. Thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your time. Pete will be with us third Thursday of every month. So if you want to tune in and get the latest scoop on the Mid-Bay, tune in. 4 Seasons guide service. He's booked until August, but
got some availability in August. Yeah.
And can they get on your walk-on list?
Yeah.
Can they get on your walk-on list? How do they do that?
Text me at 703-395-9955. Text me and say you want to be on the walk-on list. And when I have a cancel, I put out a text and folks can jump on a walk-on trip. And I do quite a few walk-ons each year, and I love doing walk-ons. So we can do that. And you can get that number on my website at walleyePete.com. You can find my information if you Google Walleye Pete. It's all good.
Guys, you'll learn a ton from booking a trip with Pete. So I really cannot recommend it more. Pete, thanks so much for your time. And we will see you guys hopefully in a few minutes. Pete, I'll see you next month.
Roger that, brother.
All right. Thanks so much, buddy.
Yep. Take care.
Just hang around.